Okay, good morning everybody. I today just wanted to talk to you a little bit about this channel and what you can expect. So sorry about the crazy looking hair and everything, it really needs to get chopped off. My husband has been sick all night, so we've been kind of dealing with that, and that's why I look a little rough as well. I've been up, he's been up. There's something wrong with my cat's foot. It's just one of those things that just seems to be going around. So what I was going to say is that on this channel you'll find basically my musings and what I'm learning as a Christian as I read the Bible. So some of it you may agree with, some of it you may not. You may think I'm crazy, or you may think, oh, she's got the right idea. Either way, I mainly made it to find other people to talk to about the Bible. So if you disagree or you agree, it'd be great to hear from you and just let me know, what you think. Either way, I have a lot of fun talking to other Christians, and so I just want to do that some more about the Bible and just life in general. Let's see, I do want to give you my testimony, which is just going to be really quick because it was kind of a confusing thing. It's not confusing, it's just kind of hard sometimes to, I guess, define it, because I had so much excuse me, I had so much transition in my life all the time. So I'll just start at the beginning. So at the beginning, I didn't really believe in anything. You could call me an atheist, I didn't really care. If there was a God, he didn't seem to interact with anyone, so who cares if he's there or not. And then I was agnostic, mainly because I started to see things in people, and then I started to see things people would bring up to me, well, if this, that, or the other is true, then how can this, that, or the other be wrong, or be right? So I didn't really have an answer. Even in science, I didn't really have an answer. I still haven't seen any of these things refuted, like, if evolution is true, then why do we have giraffes? Because of how they had to be. It's basically has to do with their neck, like the water pressure and blood pressure and everything had to be just right. And I know right now scientists are saying spontaneous evolution, but still, like, it would have to be, I don't know. To me, it seems like it would have to be really spontaneous for us to not lose a great portion of our animal life. Sorry, I do live right off the road. It's not usually this busy though, or maybe I'm just not awake. So anyway, with stuff like that, I couldn't find an answer to scientifically, or I just couldn't find an answer to at all. So those questions, people questioning me, like, well, how can you believe this, that, or the other when this, that, or the other exists? People have told me their experiences with the supernatural, which, once I became an agnostic, I didn't really believe, like, I believe there was, at some point, a created thing. Let me do it this way. I believe something created us because I had a conversation with a guy at school about how everything was perfectly ordered. This world, the trees and everything, where the earth is placed and set and all this other stuff, it is perfectly ordered. The idea that all of this was just an accident, I've never seen an accident or an explosion or anything form something like this. Now, that doesn't mean it didn't happen or it wasn't possible, it just means I haven't seen it. So, if you're watching this and you can show me something like that, that'd be really cool. I'd like to see that, but okay, starting to wander a little bit, sorry. I'm tired. So then I was like, okay, so maybe something is there, so now I'm agnostic, right? It is there, but it doesn't interact with us really. It just created and then is letting its experiment run, and that's what I thought. And then I ran into someone who was into the supernatural, and we used like Ouija boards and things like that. I knew people who would play with tarot cards and stuff. That's mainly the people I hung out with. That and people who didn't care either way, like they just didn't care. So they didn't want to think about it. So those were the two people I mainly hung out with. The Christians would really have nothing to do with me because I had an interest in sort of otherworldly things, I guess, whenever I was younger. So finding these people who were playing with tarot cards, and finding these people who were messing around with the supernatural, basically, was basically my testing all these things I've read in books. So as I started to talk with these people, things just sort of started happening around me where I would come to their house and things would move on their own. I would go and they would tell me things that they experienced. For example, one girl was really into trying to talk to her dad, and she used a Ouija board to do that. So using the Ouija board, she said she was able to talk to her dad sometimes, but most of the time she had to speak to this spirit that wasn't exactly her dad, but knew where her dad was. And I didn't really understand that part, because if he's there and he's a spirit, he should be able to talk to you. So I was like, okay, whatever. And then one day I went to her house, and then we went over to somebody else's house, and they had a Ouija board, and we were all sitting there messing with it while her mom was like cooking dinner or whatever. And then I saw it move. Now people say, well, people move it, it's like a subconscious thing. That's possible. I'll give you that. I mean, it's possible. What I know is that with my fingers on the pointer, basically, I did feel a pull on it. And, you know, they're all telling me I'm not doing it, I'm not doing it. So if you've ever messed with a Ouija board before, you know what that's like or whatever. So that was interesting. So I was experimenting with Christianity at the time as well. Like, I was experimenting with everything. If something's here, then show yourself to me, basically, is where I was. So I would play with the Ouija board, and then I would put my hand on the Ouija board and pray over it to see what would happen. So nothing happened, though. You don't believe in God, you don't think he's real, nothing really happens. You see what I mean? Her Ouija board still worked and all this other stuff. You know, God knew I didn't mean any of it. I was just messing around trying to figure some stuff out. So after that, she showed me some other things. Like, she showed me a spell book, and she told me she was able to do a couple of spells of, like, forgetfulness on her mother. So I think that was, like, her favorite one or something, because it was easy to do, she said. All you had to do was burn a candle and then burn what you wanted her to forget on a piece of paper and have some of her hair or something like that, and boom, she forgot. That's pretty cool. I tried some stuff, basically candle burning type stuff for peace and tranquility, and it worked a little bit, but not that much. So I'm like, well, that doesn't really work in my house, so I don't know why it didn't work in my house, but it didn't. I then graduated to a love spell, and I cast a love spell, and that did work. I was able to be with the person I was infatuated with for about 3 or 4 months, and then it fizzled out and it stopped. The thing about spells that they don't tell you about is that they kind of overcome the human will. They can only cloud someone's mind for a little bit. So if you are, for example, doing a love spell, it's not really a love spell, it's actually more of an infatuation spell. And it doesn't really bring you what you actually want. You see what I'm saying? So after that, I was a believer, and I became a Wicca, or Wiccan, whatever you want to say. I think I was actually more of a neo-pagan after looking up some of these things, because I have pagans in my life still, and they have like their Book of Shadows, which is basically just a journal. But it's called a Book of Shadows because it's supposed to be the hidden things of life, you know, that you learn as you go along, and it's also supposed to contain whatever spells you learn or make up. So, those are the things I was into beforehand. I was a Wiccan until about my early 20s. So, all through high school, I was a Wiccan. I was basically a closet Wiccan because my dad is a Christian and my mom claims Christianity. Hers is kind of messed up. So they're both Christians, which is probably why my tranquility spell did not work. Where's I going? Oh, so after that, I was a believer in the goddess, and I could get some kind of peace through going outside and talking to nature and things like that. And so I just stayed with that for a while, and that's just what I believed. When people asked me, I would sometimes tell them, sometimes not, because living in a Christian household, you do not do that. And despite all the things that my parents did wrong, that was something that I guess my dad was pretty strict about. None of that. So I did have a couple of experiences in middle school that also cemented it. My mother got in touch with an ex-witch, and they were trying to do Christian-y things that was sort of weird. Like I said, hers is kind of out there. Her stuff was kind of out there. So, but what I don't think people realize, even with ex-witches and even with some of the stuff I was messing with, is you can't just mess with that and then walk away. This lady still had her altar. She still had her books. If you're going to be an ex something, get rid of all of those things that had meaning for you. That would be my suggestion. However, because she still had all those things, the demonic attachment was still there, or the spiritual attachment was still there, and they hang out with her. You could feel them when you walked in. I felt a presence, a heavy presence. And then when this lady would take us places, stuff would go down. So she would take us places, and things would move, and things would go missing, and people would go missing for periods of time, and they would tell us, no, I didn't go anywhere, but no one could find them. And what they would tell us is, well, I was just sitting in the van. Well, we searched that van 3 times looking for you. You weren't there. So one time I went into this, somebody had a storage place. I don't know whose storage place it was. All I know is it wasn't hers. But her and my mom wanted to go there for some reason. As a kid, I wasn't paying attention. I didn't care. This is part of what led me on to the Wicca thing. I was in the I don't care mode and just went into this. So I went into the place, and there was a voice that spoke and said, "Get out." There was no person there, okay, because this place was abandoned. There wasn't like a homeless guy there, because you could see that. The way that this storage area was set up, it wasn't any more than like 2 boxes high. And there wasn't a whole lot in there. So, if you walked in, you would be able to see someone. I lived in Arizona at the time, so there isn't a place to hide. If you've ever been to Arizona, especially down in the really arid area, I'm going to say, let's see, Prescott. Ever been to Prescott? There isn't a whole lot of trees. Like Arizona, it's completely flat. So, where I lived in Arizona, it's completely flat. So I had this one experience where, I'm at this somebody's storage unit, and this voice says, "Get out." So, I'm in there with my sister and my brother. My brother doesn't hear anything, and my sister feels like someone is pushing her around. So it wasn't just me, and I didn't say anything to her because I thought, okay, I'm just hearing people somewhere else. No, I heard it again after that. So I didn't leave. I kept walking further back, and further back there's a stack of boxes on the wall. So I go back there, just to see if somebody actually here. Nope, nobody was there. Those boxes were against the wall. So I heard that voice a 3rd time saying, "Get out of here, you don't belong here." And I'm going, I don't know what's going on, but I'm leaving. And that's what I said. I don't know what's going on, but I'm leaving. And they both sort of looked at me like, what are you talking about? And that's when I told my sister, well, I'm hearing this voice telling me to get out of here. And that's what she told me. Yeah, I feel like I'm being pushed. And my brother's like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. You're both crazy. So that was another experience that I had that sort of pushed me into the Wicca field of things. Because at the time it was the only thing that could explain it, right? So I'm Wicca for a little while, and I'm burning my candles, and I'm going outside and communing with nature and the goddess, alright? And one day in high school, I go out and I sit under this tree, and I needed guidance for something. I've never actually asked her for guidance before, so this was new, and so I'm asking her for this guidance, and the only answer I get is, just go do something. And I'm like, okay, but what? You know? Excuse me. And the answer I got, excuse me, each time was just, go do something, just go do something. And I was like, but what? I mean, you're supposed to be God. You should know what I should do, what's the best course, and that's what I want to know. And basically the sense that I got was, don't worry about it, just go do something and it'll just work. And I was like, but okay, this is not working. I'm asking you a direct question and you still won't give me a direct answer. And that just personally drives me nuts. Like, if I ask you a direct question, just answer it. Don't give me some sort of weird answer, right? So I get up from that tree feeling very lost. I'm very not really knowing what to do. So I said, well, maybe I'll just give this whole Christianity thing a try. And so that's what I did. I started actually reading the Bible more, and I started listening to people around me. I tried to do the no sex before marriage thing, and that didn't really work out because I didn't actually, you don't really mean it until you're saved, and I don't think I was saved. Then I changed schools. We moved again. I changed schools, and I started having, more of the alternative. Most of my friends were homosexuals, alternative lifestyle people, or were into, like, other worldly things. You know what I'm saying? I don't think anybody was overtly a witch, but I was a witch. Like, I still sort of held a lot of those beliefs. Sorry, early morning. If you were to ask people who went to school with me, they wouldn't say I was a Christian. They would say I was pagan, because I still held a lot of those beliefs. I didn't really, I'm trying this Christianity thing, and it's not really working. So to certain people, I would have a conversation like I was a Christian, but then what I really was more still pagan with like a Christian line on the top. You know what I'm saying? So then I started hearing people at this new high school talk to me about how, God, I had this really hard time and I prayed about it. God told me what to do, and then I had this really interesting thing happen to me, and I praised God and I felt so happy. And you don't get that in paganism. You don't get that from the goddess. You don't get that unless you're with other people, and these people are by themselves. So I thought that was interesting. I've never heard a pagan person say, well, I felt joy from her. No, but I did hear Christian people say, well, I felt joy from God. So that's when I started looking into it really more and trying to really sort of practice it. By the time I was 19, I was engaged to a guy, and we were not good to each other. Because, again, not really a Christian, more of a pagan, right? So I just sort of did whatever I wanted to do. And that doesn't really work in a relationship. You have to be communicative and have the same goals and the same beliefs, and I didn't really have that. And he became a Christian and wanted to go to church all the time, but still kind of wanted to sin on the side, and I was like, fine, whatever. Since I don't actually really believe this, it didn't bother me. So at a certain point while going to church with him, I was like, okay, so let's start investigating this. I enjoy good conversation and, swapping of knowledge, so let's do this. So, investigating the Bible, reading the Bible, learning more about the Bible, and having debates with his pastor is really what got me sort of on the train, even more so to, like, doing the whole, maybe there's something to this Christian thing. I've had, at this point in my life, several bad things happen. My home life was not good. I say my dad is a Christian and my mom is a Christian. That doesn't mean your home life is going to be good. A person who's a Christian doesn't always do what they're supposed to do, and that's just reality. We're sinners. That's what the Bible says. So sinners sin. We do the wrong thing all the time. So it was not a great household to grow up in. It wasn't as bad as other people's, but it was worse than other people's. And I say that all the time. Better than some, worse than others. So, it's another reason why I didn't want Christianity, because in my household, all they did was argue over the Bible. And I was like, I want none of that bull crap. I just didn't want any of it. But anyway, back to how I got there. So I'm sitting in this Bible study where we go to eat and then we study, and I'm debating the pastor, and the pastor can't answer my questions, or I'm able to get a better grasp on what he says than what he can teach me, and I'm going, this is not, what is this? You're representing yourself as this great teacher, and I'm sitting here disputing what you're saying with your own verses that you just told me. I was a charismatic preacher. It was Pentecostalism, but it was a step in the right direction, and I'm thankful for it. I'm thankful for that pastor who would sit there and debate me, even though it probably annoyed the crap out of him. But anyway, so me and that guy split up. It's Christmas, December of 2002, I think. And once we split up, that's really when I start calling out to God and say, okay, I have pain, I'm hurting. So that's something else the goddess would not help me with. When I would go to her, there would not be peace. I would have to go outside and sit in some grass or something, or sit under a tree, and that's the only way I could get really any sort of comfort from her. So now I'm at this point in my life where I have no boyfriend. At this time, my family is completely fractured. It's just me and my dad, and we are homeless. So we end up living with this German lady who's okay. She let us live with her for a little bit in exchange for some rent and chores around the house. But we're homeless, basically. We live in our car. And that German lady didn't last that long, because she was a little crazy too. But anyway, we lived in our car. We were homeless. It's just me and my dad putting around. So there was a moment living in her house. I was doing the chores, that we agreed to, and I'm fine with that. Whatever, free room and board, basically, for us to live in a place. So this is kind of hard to describe. I'm sorry if I tear up. I'm getting better at telling the story without tearing up. So basically, I'm hardcore reading the Bible. I'm hardcore into trying to figure out some of the theological parts of it, because don't know anything. Really, it's the first time I've ever taken it actually seriously and not just sort of dabbled, So I'm on message boards, I'm reading the Bible, I'm trying to, on the radio there's Bible stuff. I'm trying to limit what I view so that my mind can be full of God, because the Bible says to do that. And I'm listening to this music, and it's like I'm courting God, God, come to me. I'm serious now, really, I'm serious, okay? And in this moment, I'm on my knees, and I'm praying and worshiping to God, and there He is. It's amazing. It's pure peace and joy, and just everything's going to be alright, and there's no sadness. it's just completely fulfilling. It's like the best, it's hard to, it's like the best love you've ever had. I don't know how to explain it. If you've never felt complete, you feel complete once he's there. And I've never felt, once I've dedicated my life to him, I never felt alone or lost or any of those things. That moment in my mind will always stick in my mind. I love Jesus Christ, and it is because of who he is. You know, it's like I'm saying, this is how I got here. I did try to kill myself a couple of times before I dedicated to God. It was in my transition period between, in high school, in my second high school, when I finally started, was like, okay, what do I do? Where do I go? Because I can't escape the circumstances I'm in without these drastic consequences that also bring something I don't want, like hardcore don't want. So, you know, I felt trapped. I didn't know what to do. I didn't understand how to get out of it. And so killing myself was just the way I thought was going to be best. I laid down one night and just started taking aspirin because I read it was an easy way to do it, and you don't feel anything because you basically just fall asleep. You take your blood pressure down so far that your heart doesn't pump as much blood as it should, and you eventually just go to sleep and you die, is what I read. So I just started pumping like I was just eating aspirin, trying to kill myself, because I didn't think there was a way to live a good life, to live a happy life, to be happy at all. Because my life just wasn't happy. I couldn't get peace. I couldn't get happiness. Any time I had a good day, it was taken away by something. And I don't know. It was terrible. Just terrible. And I know God saved me from myself at that point. One, because I heard this voice say, just hang on. And it was not my voice, okay? It was not just my inner monologue saying, let's not kill ourselves, because I'm done. I'm done at this point. So God saved my life. He saved me from myself. And then I had that moment with him where it's here, he's loving and guiding and everything else. And ever since then, I cannot go back to anything else because of personal experience, and because now what I'm learning as far as the physical nature of Christianity is the way I put it, where you can see it playing out in front of you. If you take a Bible verse, or I wouldn't say a Bible verse, because there are Bible verses that say things like Jesus wept or whatever. So of course you're not going to see that play out in front of you because Jesus isn't here anymore. But the physical nature of Christianity is what I call it, and that is where you can take a Bible concept. For example, the Bible says that people who don't believe in God will persecute you, they will not believe you, they will not like you, things like that, right? That happens all the time. There are Christians dying right now. So the physicality of Christianity. I'm listening to some guys on Periscope right now, and they call it something else, but that's what I call it. I call it like the physicality of it, where you can physically see it happen. The Bible says that the way our universe spins, it says that. It agrees with science on that. There are a lot of things that Christianity agrees with science. Where Wicca does not. Wicca's different. It's not that way. So this has gone longer than I wanted it to, but I've had sort of a long life. So, and it's been a life of transitions, and a life of just trying to figure out what's real and true, and how can I get to these points in life that people say you're always looking for, happiness, joy, all this stuff. And I can't say that I haven't had any hard times since I've been a Christian. However, what I can say is that having become a Christian, I now have answers to these hard times. So, whereas before I had no answers, had no idea what to do, where to go, etc. So anyway, guys, that's what you're going to find on this channel. This is just me talking about what I'm learning. what I'm seeing. I am a geek. I guess you could say I love computers, I love comic books, sci-fi, fantasy, all that stuff. Early on from my childhood, Star Trek was a thing. We used to sit down and watch Star Trek every day and eat peanut butter crackers. It was probably the one part of the day where no one was arguing and no one was trying to hurt each other and no one was, none of that was going on. So we were watching Star Trek. So, big Trekkie. I'm not a Trekker, but I am a Trekkie. So, that's sort of my background. My favorite is Batman, as you can see. Batman, heck yeah, heck yeah. I love the redemptive story of Batman. If you want to know about that, I can send you an email or something, I don't know. I do write a blog about the stuff that I see as well. I believe that since God has written the reality of how to live on our hearts, like what's real, that there is a God and that He loves us and that everything's ordered and that there's a proper and right way to live, then it comes out in our writing a lot of times when we try to teach. So I believe that you can find these things that are written on our hearts in our pop culture, in our comics and things like that. So I do have a blog about that, and I will talk about that on here. So that's me, guys. That's going to give you an idea of what to expect here. I'm sorry about the road noise. Excuse me. And the early morning burps. But, yeah. Excuse me. That's me, and I hope to see you in my next devotional video. Until then, have a great day. Enjoy yourselves. Go to God today. Have Him love on you and love on Him back, okay? I'll see you later.